we basically looked for companies where we thought we could understand what the future would look like 5 or 10 or 15 years hence. And that didn't mean we had to do it to 4 decimal places or anything of the sort, but we had to have a feel for it, and we had to know our limitations. So we stayed away from a lot of things. And at that time, prices were different. So in terms of knowing we were getting enough for our money, it was a much easier decision than it is currently. But there weren't elaborate, there were no planning sessions or anything of the sort.
Buffett emphasizes the importance of curiosity and seeking wisdom in creating one's own luck. He highlights the value of learning from mistakes. In this video, Buffett and Charlie discuss 5 important things to get amazing returns on business and investment. Starting with number 1, distinguishing between good and bad opportunities.
We kept reading and we kept thinking and we kept looking at things that came along, as Charlie described it in the movie, and comparing opportunity A with opportunity B. And in those days we were capital constrained, so we usually had to sell something if we were going to buy something else, and that always makes for that's an interesting challenge always when you're measuring something you hold against something that has come along, and to see which is more attractive. And we probably leaned very much toward things where we felt we were certain to get a decent result than where we were hopeful of getting a brilliant result. That's went with our instincts, and kept putting one foot in front of the other. Charlie, what would you say?
Well, that's exactly what we did, and it worked wonderfully well. And part of it is because we're such splendid people and worked so constructively, and part of it is we were a little lucky. We had some good fortune. Now, Warren says he was lucky to go to Geico, but not every 20-year-old was going down to Washington, D.C. and knocking on the doors of empty buildings to try and find something out that he was curious about. So we made some of our luck by being curious and seeking wisdom, and we certainly recommend that to anybody else. And there's nothing that proves his wisdom more thoroughly than really getting your own nose whacked hard when you make a mistake. And we had a fair amount of that, didn't we?
We have plenty of them. If you'll read this book, you'll see about a few of them. We thought we knew about the department store business in Baltimore, and we thought we knew about the trading stamp business. And we've had a lot of experience with bad businesses, and that makes you appreciate a good one. And to some extent, it sharpens your ability to make distinctions between good and bad ones. So, and we've had a lot of fun along the way. That helps too. I mean, if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're likely to get a better result than if you go to work with your teeth clenched every morning.
Once you get better at finding good business, your next step is to build a solid reputation, because reputation influences future opportunities.
Reputation you get over a long period of time. Very few people are like Charles Lindbergh, where you just suddenly have a great reputation. Most of us have to acquire one very slowly, and that was true in Berkshire's case. And in any individual, you just have to get the best reputation you can in the years you're allotted and the time available. And it may work out well, it may work out poorly, but it's a wise investment. I see all the time opportunities come to people where it's the credibility they've gotten in the past that causes them to have the new opportunity. So I think hardly anything is more important than behaving well as you go through life. And I think we actually try to behave better as we got more prosperous. And I think you'd be crazy if you didn't. So I certainly recommend that you follow those old-fashioned principles. And I don't think there's any way of guaranteeing a total powerhouse brand, nor can, if a result is a 1 in 50 million type result, you're probably not going to get them.
Businesses can thrive under normal circumstances, but we know for a fact that the economic conditions do not stay the same throughout time. Especially when federal governments print limitless money, it invokes a sleeping beast called inflation. Buffett explains which businesses are suited to thrive during a period of high inflation and which will suffer the most.
Yeah, well, the best businesses during inflation are usually the best. They're the businesses that you buy once, and then you don't have to keep making capital investments subsequently. So you do not face the problem of continuous reinvestment involving greater and greater dollars because of inflation. That's one reason real estate in general is good during inflation. If you built your own house 55 years ago like Charlie did, or bought one 55 years ago like I did, it's a one-time outlay. Whereas if you get an inflationary expansion in replacement capital without having to replace yourself. And if you got something that's useful to someone else, it tends to be priced in terms of replacement value over time. So you really get the inflationary kick. Now, if you're in a business such as the utility business or the railroad business, it just keeps eating up more and more money, and your depreciation charges are inadequate, and you're kidding yourself as to your real economic profits. So any business with heavy capital investment tends to be a poor business to be in inflation, and often it's a poor business to be in generally. And the business where you buy something once, a brand is a wonderful thing to own during inflation. See's Candy built their brand many years ago. Now we've had to nourish it as we've gone along, but the value of that brand increases during inflation, just as the value of really any strongly branded goods. So that's the kind of business you want to own.
Number 4, the importance of reading books to gain valuable lessons and wisdom.
If you read Adam Smith, and if you read Keynes, Ricardo, and if you also read that little book we've got out there called "Where Are the Customers' Yachts," you will have a lot of wisdom. I forgot to mention, I was supposed to mention too, that we didn't want to put it on sale earlier because it would have given away the movie, but we do have Berkshire Bomber underwear out there, or sweatshirts, or whatever it may be. So Fruit of the Loom has those, and we have Fred Schwedd's "Where Are the Customers' Yachts" book, which contains an incredible amount of wisdom in very few pages and very entertaining. But if you want to not only get a lot more wisdom but appear more erudite, you should read The Wealth of Nations also. Charlie?
Well, yeah, guys is really worn well. I mean, he is rightly recognized as one of the wisest people that ever came along. And of course, the lessons that he taught way back then were taught again when communism failed so terribly, and people like Singapore and Taiwan and China and so forth came up so fast. The productive power of the capitalist system is simply unbelievable. And he understood that fully and early, and he's done a lot of good.
I took an idea of his on the specialization of labor, and he talked about people making pins or something, but I applied that actually to philanthropy. I mean, the idea that you let other people do what they're best at and stick with what you're best at, I've carried from mowing my lawn to philanthropy, and it's a wonderful thing to just shove off everything and saying somebody else is better than that, and then I am at that, and then work in the field that's most productive for you.
You didn't do your own bowel surgery either.
No. I'm not sure I have any reply to that.
Number 5, how to get the right people like you and get them to work with you, and importantly, your spouse.
Well, I was pretty obnoxious, and not everybody liked me. And so the only way I could get the people to like me a little bit was to get very rich and very generous. That will work.
People will see all kinds of virtues in you if they think you'll write a check. Yeah, the truth is, both Charlie and I were on the obnoxious side early on, but you should get a little smarter about human behavior as you get older. And I turned out to have some pretty good teachers as I went along in terms of what worked. I mean, I have looked at other people during my lifetime and had these wonderful teachers. They weren't teachers in the standard definition, but they were people I admired. And I thought to myself, why do I admire these people? And if I want to be admired myself, why shouldn't I take on some of their qualities? So it's not a complicated proposition. If you look around you at the people you like in your school, write down 3 or 4 things they do that make you like them, and then look around at the 3 or 4 people that turn you off and write down those qualities and decide that you're going to be a person you yourself would like, that you take on the qualities of the person on the left. You're generous, you're friendly, you accept things with good humor, you don't claim credit for things you don't do, all of these things, and they're all possible to do. And if you like that in other people, people are going to like it in you. And if you find things that are kind of obnoxious, you're always late, and you're always claiming credit for more than you do, and you're kind of negative on everything, and you don't like those in other people, get rid of them in yourself, and you'll find out it works pretty well.
And it really works in marriage. If you can change yourself instead of trying to change your spouse, that's a good idea.
Charlie has said the most important thing in selecting a marriage partner is that you don't look for intelligence or humor or character. He says you look for someone with low expectations.